all this is asking for is time. Education is power, knowledge is power. And if you have an hour to surf the internet or social media, if you're taking the 15 minutes to listen to this podcast plus every other podcast you listen to, if you have an hour that you are sitting on your couch at 7 p.m. after dinner, before bedtime routines, whatever, you have an hour a week to learn more about this industry.
Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first episode of 2025 for the Franchising 101 podcast. I'm Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach. Thanks for joining us. I hope everybody had a safe and happy New Year, and welcome to 2025. It sounds crazy to say that. Feels like I'm getting old, basically. But thanks for joining us. We've got a guest coming on here in a little bit, a return guest, I think 5 times now for this one. A 15 plus year veteran in the world of franchising. Worked for numerous different franchisors. She's got her own company. She's occasionally part of FranCoach. Is the co-host of the world famous Franchising 360 TV show that you can find every Friday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV. Go find the past ones on Biz TV, the app, or YouTube. And though she hates it when I say this, it's also my wife. So we've got Danielle Wright joining us here in a few minutes to help us kind of look into this. We're 2 days into this new year of 2025. Talk about some things to really kind of help people gain some awareness of where they are in their life, some goal setting and some steps to take. So that is coming up. A quick reminder, as always, of who we are. FranCoach is a national search firm dedicated to helping people interested in franchise ownerships. We are partnered with well over 600 franchises spanning over 70 different industries. Number one goal is to help properly educate folks on franchise ownership to determine if this is a path for them. And if so, what is the best franchise for them to own? That's a little bit about us. Now let's roll into our guest for today. All right, and joining us once again on the Franchising 101 podcast, so many appearances, we've lost track. It's just Danielle. Danielle, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We were talking about this the other day on Saturday Night Live, the 5 Timers Club and the jacket. I think.
Oh, do I get a jacket?
I think officially you get a jacket now.
Yay.
So, it's on its way. So I'll get it to you later. But,
okay.
So thanks for joining us, and, first podcast of the new year. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025.
Yeah, we're here.
So
we
this
say 2025
promises to be the best episode of 2025 so far today. So I'm looking forward to it.
All downhill from here.
Probably in many ways. We want to talk a little bit, kind of take this time to look at a little of 24, but also some things just in franchising for 2025, but also a couple things to help people kind of do the thing that almost all of us do, is some sort of like assessment of, our lives so far and kind of what we want to do differently. But what did you see from kind of the world of franchising in 2024?
Well, from the world of franchising, I don't want to speak for franchising, right? But I think 2024 had its highs and its lows, or more importantly, our status quos. Oh, I made a rhyme. And so I think there was uncertainty for people looking at franchises. There was uncertainty for franchisors. But some franchisors, when you look back, had a really great year. And so we tend to see so many amazing advancements through a year that I think we tend to think if we didn't do the same thing that we had seen in years prior, that we failed, right? But we didn't. Like, the reality is everybody really had a good year, and sometimes status quo is kind of good for you to be in, so that we can go into years like 2025, like highly optimistic, very motivated, budget friendly, like really just looking to maximize on kind of just a flat opportunity. So I think 2024, people's commentary in and around it is not like, oh my God, it was so great. But the reality is when you like look at the numbers and see what franchises did, and that you're happy for the level versus, the crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times in election years, and especially the last couple in particular, there's a lot of like, speaking of crazy, right? Just like, okay, we're like, I feel like there was the pause almost of like everybody holding their breath of what the heck is about to happen. And that like, now we can go, okay, that's done. And you mentioned that kind of status quo piece is, whether it's personally or professionally, there are times it's okay to be okay, right? Where you are. And if people typically really do this time of year of like let's make the New Year's resolution.
You can say the word,
right? The R word, and it's okay to go, no, I'm just gonna run it back. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. If people are truly happy. Now, I don't know that's like, how many people, I don't think it's everybody sitting there going, no, let's just all run it exactly back like we had it, but it is okay to feel that way.
Right. I mean, look, resolutions, you know how I feel about the word resolution. I'm much better as a goal setter, but that's my Capricorn mentality, right? Like resolutions are so pie in the sky. A goal is
happy birthday, by the way. We're a couple of days late.
So
29, right?
Yeah, all day, every day, twice on Sundays. So I think it's okay to, again, you and I talk a lot about like self-reflection and being aware. And I think that's more of the word that people should think about using this time of year, is don't necessarily like make the reflection be a negative. Like where are the positive pieces? And maybe there aren't things that you need to resolve in the new year. It's maybe they're simple. Like we just said, be more aware, like be aware of your surroundings. What does that look like? How does that feel? And so the reality is like resolutions are awesome, but be kind to yourself, right? I think in 2024, there was a lot of that, like be kind to others. 2025 should still mimic the same thing. Be kind to yourself. Like we are all works in progress. And if we look at franchising as a whole and what we do, and us personally taking each of those avenues, be kind. Like you've made it through the year, and we're going to make it into another one, and we're hopefully going to make it into another one. And so like praise yourself for the accomplishments you had and the things that you survived through, and kind of, hold those as your center going forward. And that's probably more important than anything.
Yeah, I think myself for sure. But when people have any level of success professionally, they tend to forget to celebrate the wins. And like we've worked hard.
That's a resolution, right?
Right.
Like celebrate your win. Like
yeah,
whichever one's there.
I am as guilty of that as anybody. And when you mentioned that, the kind of the status quo thing, we talk about this with clients sometimes. It's like you look at a franchise system, any franchise, some of the happiest owners are not the top performers, right? And so they're hitting their goals of what that is. And if they want to run it back year over year, they can do that, because as an employee, how many people right now that have a job that at the end of the year, rolling into the new year, somebody's boss said, hey, Danielle, that was great, but we need to increase that by, 20% next year. And you're sitting there going, nah, I was good right here, boss, right? Like it doesn't work that way. But as a franchise owner and working for yourself, you can do that. When you find that sweet spot, if you just want to run it back, like, and you're happy and you're hitting your goals, that's kind of why people do a franchise. And if they want to grow, there's going to be all that support to make it happen. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick break from our podcast to tell you about our amazing friends at Entrepreneur. If you're looking to become a franchisee or simply learn more about business ownership, and guys, let's be honest, you're listening to the Franchising 101 podcast, so we know you have some interest in this. And I really encourage you to go to entrepreneur.com to check out all of their great content and resources. Seriously, Entrepreneur has everything, all the way from a bookstore to the best podcasts, webinars, and videos, plus information on upcoming events and the latest articles that seriously, they cover all aspects of franchising and business ownership. If you're having trouble deciding which franchise is right for you, start with Entrepreneur's renowned Franchise 500 ranking, which highlights the best franchises of 2022. For 45 years and counting now, Entrepreneur has been and continues to be the most widely recognized and respected authority in the franchise market. Digital and print subscriptions are available, so you never miss out on anything. So seriously, what are you waiting for? Go to entrepreneur.com right now and learn more.
No, I agree. And sometimes I think we think with resolutions or goals or new outcomes with the whole new year, new you thing, there is no new you, you are you, right? And honestly, you're probably going to keep being you into the new year. But the reality is maybe it's something small. Maybe it's one extra deal a month or one extra hour of free time. Because if I'm going to invest in a franchise and make that my job, I'm going to leave my job and then own my world and own my future and own my time, then I did that to get time back in my life. So where do I put that hour? Where do I give myself that hour? You and I have talked about this a little bit leading up to this. Is like, I'm not a big resolution setter. I have certain goals for my business. I have certain goals for me personally. Most of the time those fall away just like everybody else. Come January 30th, what was that? But something significant. Like I want an hour in the day where if I do nothing, I do nothing. If I read a book, I read a book. I go for an extra 15-minute walk. Like there's a reason why goals are considered SMART, because they're actionable and measurable. And those are the pieces that when you're thinking about resolutions and tying to business ownership, you got into a franchise or you're getting into a franchise for what? Freedom, flexibility, financials, family. So where can you use those 4Fs to say, this is the thing that I'm going to do for me in 2025, or this is what I'm going to do for me financially. Maybe it's one less bill that's I'm personally going to pay that the business is going to pay, right? Like, because that means you've grown your business, you've made the revenue to support paying that bill versus you personally paying that bill. Well, how do you balance that family time? I missed 2 of my kids' soccer games this last week. Okay. How do I make sure I'm only missing 1 versus 2? Like, right. Things like that are the beauty of franchising and business ownership in general, is that you can control that. So I think going into 2025, as we're sitting here, day 2, day 3 of the new year, be aware of where you might have missed those things last year. Again, awareness. And then try to make sure that you're being aware of not doing that again.
And if you don't want to do it again, that's fine too, right? But because again, it's keeping it the same. But I always kind of think it comes back to the why. Like how many people when I used to work out in a public gym, the month of January annoyed the ever-loving crap out of me, right? Like, you jokers are not going to be here in February. Get out of my way, right?
Yeah.
And now, obviously some would stick, but if you could measure this in any gym in the world, like bodies in the facility in the month of January, I guarantee you it is the most all year long. Like, why do people fall off? Well, it's like, oh, it's my resolution is to do this, but why? Like, and if you don't have that why behind it, you're gonna just crap out on yourself, right? From that perspective. And so we literally had a call with one of our clients this morning, and we really went over that. It kind of gave her the homework of what's your why? Like, then really go old school, get a piece of paper, get a pen, a pencil. She had one of her little ones with her at the time. I'm like, grab one of her crayons if you need to, and literally write down why do you want this? Right. And she's like, well, like that's one of the reasons is the little one, that right, the freedom, the flexibility, and all those things. I'm like, put it down on paper and have that why. And so I think because when it helps you and you're like, I'm joining the gym in January, and come January 10th, all of a sudden you're like, nah. Like if you have that and you can go back to, yes, I want to make a change. Are you saying that just because it's New Year's Eve and you're drunk and you're like, yeah, this is my New Year's resolution, yay? Okay, okay, why?
Peer pressure. Everyone else has one. I need to have one.
Exactly. Yeah. What was your big, New Year's Eve crazy? This is my goal.
I don't have one. There's no big crazy goal for me. I think the change or adjustment or the awareness I want to have, it is more from a stress anxiety space. Like how do I manage that? Because it's all self-inflicted. And as a business owner, I think we just live in that high level every day, and you just get kind of used to it. Where I think even for you and I over the past couple of weeks, it's just been kind of like chill and low key and not a lot going on, which throws our system into a wishy world because we're not used to that. Like we're used to living at a 9 to 10. And so I think my challenge to myself in 2025 is to be aware of that. Right. So I made adjustments in 2024 to rid some of that anxiety and stress. But I think in 2025 is to just challenge myself to be okay that if I'm not readily available to everyone when they need me to be there for them, that I will balance my stress and my anxiety better.
Except for me.
Okay.
So, what do you see from a franchising situation? And so there are things, again, like if things are going well, even when they're going well, like way I'm wired probably from my past athletic world was like, yay, celebrate the win, but like, okay, how do we keep getting better, or what's missing? What might kind of bite us in the ass down the road? But there's some things, just kind of natural evolution of everything, but of franchising, that are kind of slowly changing. What do you see as maybe something, one or two things this year that we may start seeing a little bit more of or talking about more in franchising?
So I think what you're asking me is kind of like, what do we see next year being, or what the goal of franchising is, or what I'm hearing, or all of the things. Look, I don't hear a lot. I read a lot. And I talk to a lot of people. I think what people are trying to do in 2025 is really optimize their franchise opportunity, make sure that we're doing things, I don't want to say the right way, but the responsible way. And we both hate that word, which is why it's really ironic that I'm saying it. So people are investing more, are building stronger infrastructure, building support systems. I'm hearing a lot of people going out and like trying to hire good talent, quality talent to kind of fill double roles. What I'm hearing from potential clients and customers and what have you is the job market is not a bad job market, but it's a bad job market for changing and leveling your career to a next level. So you're seeing a lot of people just sitting in stagnation that are not happy with that, but there's no real place for them to go because there isn't massive layoffs and there's not a high unemployment rate and there's not a lot of employment. So like you're making lateral moves to make a lateral move. Some people are going back and getting more education, which is great. But I think franchising itself, from the franchisor's perspective, we're really bullish on 2025 and helping those people that might be in this space that I can't make a career move up a ladder. I'm not going down a ladder. I don't want to make a lateral move. So what can I do to kind of balance out my time and create that thing so that I think we all live in this space that when's the bottom going to fall out? Like I've lived through a recession. I have lived through COVID. Like we've lived through some pretty awesome and tragic years. And if you're at that age range where you've experienced those things, you're kind of like the bottom's going to fall out at some point. So what do I do for when that does? So how do I be proactive about that? And so on the franchise side, I think we're very aware of that same thing, that we're going to want to position ourselves to be the thing that will be there when the bottom falls out. So you want to get into that beforehand. So I think a lot of brands are going to solidify who they are, really hone in on what they've got as far as infrastructure is concerned, still invest in places that they need to. So that's a positive for people like that are listening to this podcast, clients of FranCoach, that franchisors are really looking inward to make sure that they're the right opportunity for you when you're ready to pursue them, and that they've got everything in line to give not support just today, but support for the future.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that if franchising just kind of like the old, Timex, it just keeps on ticking, right, as it goes through everything, as I date myself with probably a really old commercial now that I think about it. But
and the word Timex, I mean, if you're really going to do something, say Rolex. There you go. That's something we all can know what that is.
Yes. But the pieces you're talking about, like from an employee standpoint, we get, again, this all the time, regardless of age, but that probably 40 plus year old corporate professional, always joke when somebody has a vice president title, that's where careers go to die. There's nowhere, like, I mean, there is, but there's not really anywhere else to go from that standpoint.
The ladder gets smaller and the steps get larger.
Right. And so there's the thing, I think, again, awareness that people don't think of is, like, if you're sitting there and you're not happy with where you are career-wise, or you feel stuck or stagnant, there's a really good chance your employer feels the same way about you. And so what happens when they've decided to replace you with the 32-year-old version that you used to be, right? And
or even an older version that's just a little bit more hungry. Like, we talk about that too. Like, hunger is a thing. Like, you need to have it. It's the driver. It's the motivator. It's the thing that pushes you from one day to the next. And I think speaking from that generation, you kind of lose track of what that is, or you're sitting in this middle space of, my hunger is different than what it was when I was in my 20s or my 30s. Like, what do I need to do now to satisfy that hunger? So I'm with you. Like, the employer's probably thinking it, you're thinking it, but what are either one of you doing? You're ignoring it instead of saying, what do I really want to do in this second half of my life? And what are they wanting me to do? Of course they want you to stay, because honestly, it's cheaper for them if you stay than it is the amount of money. And for anybody that's a potential franchise owner, these are things you're going to think about. Like, status quo is awesome. It's great. You know what it is. But the cost of hiring someone, training them and putting them there, and then thinking the longevity of that piece, I'm going to choose Steady Sam over Wacky Wendy, right? So, like, it's just, Steady Sam needs to have a little Wacky Wendy in their life.
Yeah. So many things I want to say to that I'm going to let go. So one of my personal goals is to stay married in 2025. So I'm going to keep my Wacky Wendy comments to myself. So,
and sorry for if there's a Wendy listening to this. That's not what we mean. We don't know you, but I just, W and W and S and S. So here you go.
But yes, Wendy, everybody loves you and they don't think you're wacky, as far as you know. So when you think of one of the things I know we talked about, and will be on one of our upcoming episodes of the Franchising 360 show, which we can find every Friday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV and on our YouTube channel, but don't go there just yet. Give that a week or so. But some of the ways technology and AI are kind of creeping into franchising, which, again, sometimes change can be this scary thing. But talk a little bit about that, and we've got a guest coming on here in a couple of weeks that is going to go much deeper into that. Even though she doesn't quite know she's going to be a guest yet, she's going to be. So, but talk a little bit about kind of what you've seen, and I know when some of the things you're doing professionally have already started to implement and use some of these tools.
Well, I don't want to be the expert on AI because I am the farthest thing from it, but we've talked historically that franchising is slow to change. I mean, we still do a lot of things that certain generations feel are archaic. But again, it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, I guess, is franchising. But AI is here. AI has been here. AI has been around longer than we're probably speaking the words AI. I don't feel like we think in franchising it's going to replace anything that we do. But if you are aware of it, again, aware, this should be the theme of your of your podcast today.
I'm aware that this might need to be the title of the podcast.
This is the awareness of life in 2025. Use it, right? Like, we're afraid of things because we don't know how to use them. And so I've taken a couple of classes this guest has hosted. I've played around with using the ChatGPT thing. I even have a friend that she named her ChatGPT, which is quite comical. That's a sidebar conversation.
What's the name?
Nope. And so ultimately, it's like she's having a conversation with this ChatGPT, but calling it by a name versus ChatGPT. Right. I've used the AI bots from headshot perspectives because, you know, me, I hate going and getting pictures taken, and I hate pictures of myself. And I know you hate AI, but like the reality is. No,
I hate my AI picture and that you use yours all the time. That's the piece I don't like.
Well.
And I can't spell it.
Oh, goodness. Yep. And you can't have a podcast without throwing in a dad joke. So that just tells you
Thank
which
you.
one
I'll
of
be
these
here all
people
week.
is not that person. So I think more and more people are going to use it. I think it is, from a franchising perspective, something your clients, your team, my side of the funnel have to remember is that when you're going into that platform, it's fed information, right? So why not feed it the information so it has the accurate information? It scans all all freaking websites and data and anything that is on that big old World Wide Web that we always talk about. Like, if you're not staying constant and consistent with your info, like you're at the 100th page of a Google search, right? So where the AI kind of comes into play is it's bringing your information more relevant to a search, where I've actually had people like go into the ChatGPT and ask it questions about franchises and dig up information. So people will start using it more in relation to Google, because GTS that, like, Google that stuff is what GTS is, but we don't use the word stuff. But I mean, it's podcast. I could probably say whatever I want, but we won't, just in case. And so Google now has a competitor. It's called Chat, and people are going into Chat and asking the same questions it would ask in Google. But Google prioritizes in a lot of ways with their algorithm, where Chat's just scanning the whole World Wide Web and bringing back to you the information that's been put into it.
Right. You can bribe Google. You can't currently bribe ChatGPT.
Correct. We can kind of, but again, it's what is the information you're putting into it. And so it is a tool that we ourselves are creating, yet we ourselves are scared of it. Well, you helped to build it. So don't be scared of it. Just know how to use it. And if I go back to when AOL was a thing and how scared my mother was when we were doing AOL chats, as she should have been, because I was like a teenager. That's always scary. But the reality is that, like, knowledge is power. There's a reason why that tagline stays around. No matter what generation we are in, knowledge is power. So if you understand how to use it, understand where it comes from, and not be afraid of it, it's something that can be a good tool for people to use. So franchisors are using it. They're using it in automations. They're using it for efficiencies and business models. So you'll see more and more franchise businesses utilizing AI in a way to help them be more efficient and help our franchise owners and create success for those franchise owners. And when I mean success, it's generally down to, like, how can we make businesses make more money? How do we tap into more of the consumer base? And so again, I'm not going to say I'm a big fan. I am intrigued by it. I love the challenge that it brings my headspace. So I'm aware that it plays a role in my life today, like less than 10%. But if we're talking resolutions and New Year's, there's 2026, 2027, 2028. Like, there are multiple years to come in our lives, cross our fingers, that this is going to be more prevalent. It's going to move from 10% to 40% to 60% to 80% of our existence. So knowing how to use it now when it's still in its learning phase means you can adapt or adopt or be aware as it continues to grow, and it's less fearful.
Yeah. And the other piece of that too is there are, I mean, our team, we work with well over 600 franchises, but there are about 4,000 in the US, and how different they can each be behind the scenes, even when they're doing the exact same thing in the same industry. Right. And so there are times we get somebody that's like, oh, I really want something tech related. I've been in tech. Well, yes, maybe the franchise that you're going to own is in the tech space, but it could be the most random non-tech thing, but the franchise is an early adopter to this. They've got this amazing tech platform and they're using those things to help you. Like, it can really trigger and create that connection for this. Or maybe it's vice versa. That stuff scares the crap out of you and you want somebody that's a brand that's a little slower to adopt that. Hey, this is how we've always done it. Those behind the scenes things with the franchises, you can't Google that. You can't chat GPT that. You have to FranCoach it, basically. So we're the ones that know that information. But those are little things that can make a huge difference in this search. So I want to ask you one last question, because I know you are busy and want to throw this out there for you, for everybody that is listening. So I think we're up to 8 listeners now. So all 8 people that are out there, my goal in 2024 was to get us from 7 to 8. This year I'm really shooting for 10. So we'll see what we can do. But somebody's out there listening. Mm-hmm. Obviously there's some level of interest in franchise ownership. What's maybe a piece of advice that you would share with folks?
Oh, just one piece of advice.
I mean, you can give as many as you want. I may edit the rest, 2 through 23 out, but have at it.
The piece of advice I would give someone is that all this is asking for is time. And it's okay to say it's not the right thing for me. But I'm a big believer, again, education is power, knowledge is power. And if you have an hour to surf the internet or social media or what have you, you have an hour a week to learn something new. Again, if we're talking about this age demographic where we're trying to figure out where we're going to go, or we're setting these resolutions, or I want all of this balance in life, like whatever your why is, as you would say, like if you have an hour in your week where you are scrolling, and I know you are, I know anyone listening to this, if you're taking the 15 minutes to listen to this podcast plus every other podcast you listen to, if you have an hour that you are sitting on your couch at 7 p.m. after dinner, before bedtime routines, whatever, you have an hour a week to learn more about this industry. I am grateful that I got dumped into it. I am grateful that I'm still here. Again, it's like the mafia. I'm probably not going to ever leave franchising until someone kills me. So there we go. But I think my one piece of advice is take the hour, and again, resolutions, invest in you, and investing that time to see what the possibilities are. All you're losing is an hour. That's all and it's not even losing. You're gaining knowledge to understand, is today the day, or is tomorrow the day, or maybe it's 2 years from now. But you can't ever make that without a goal and a plan. And that's kind of what resolutions are about. So give yourself the time to invest in yourself. That's the resolution I would give for people, and the one thing that I would tell people to do.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's kind of why, like, we always say to folks, and even at the beginning of this podcast, like, we're here to help get you properly educated, right? So we'll do that. And I always love when you talk about your social media piece. So you're giving it, like, you're doing it, or as my son coined recently, Facebook scroliosis, right? Of like talking about grandma on her Facebook scroliosis, right? Like we all do it. And again, like the answers aren't there for what this is really all about and how to look at it. So Danielle, thank you for joining us here on the Franchising 101 podcast. And we will definitely get you that smoking jacket for the 5 Timers Club. I might have to go back and do some math. It might be up to 6 now.
Well, just make sure it's a replaceable patch because,
Right.
you know, take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on.
Was it
It's
the
getting a new patch every time you show up.
Alec Baldwin on there? What, he had 17 or something?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Yep.
and in the meantime, if you want more of this witty banter and franchise knowledge, don't forget the Franchising 360 shows has yet to be canceled. We've got more episodes every Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV. And if you are ready for that next step, reach out to the team at FranCoach, francoach.net. It is always FranCoach, folks. Don't fall for those fakers or imitators out there in the world. We're here for you. As always, never any fee for our service. As Danielle said, get off of damn social media and spend an hour and learn a little bit more to see if this is.
Go on LinkedIn, see you, see me. Like it's all there. Where it'll find. That's where you should spend your time. If you're gonna do social media, do it on LinkedIn and get connected with FranCoach.
Oh, it's also a great idea. So, and check out Danielle's really cool AI picture on LinkedIn as well. So, thank you for coming on today.
That's what I'm here for. I'm
Awesome.
sure the check's in the mail, right?
No, the jacket's in the mail, so it's coming.
Jacket.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, but as requested, a replaceable patch. For everybody else, maybe you can become a franchise owner through FranCoach, then be a guest, and then we'll find 4 more reasons over the years to get you back, and you too can get a Franchising 101 podcast smoking jacket. So
there you go.
In the meantime, Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.